This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mommying While Muslim podcast. This is Uzma Jaffrey.
And this is Zeba Hassan. We are still in January. The doldrums of January started to kick in, girl. So how has your week been?
It's been a very, very good week. I haven't done much except read, catch up on more reading, and try to finish up my Enneagram stuff because that was part of my reading.
Oh, that's so fun. You? I have to hear what your Enneagram. What are you?
I'm a 3.
You're a 3. I'm a 2.
You're a 2. Okay, so
which is the helper.
I'm the achiever.
Oh yeah. See, I'm not achieving anything. Okay, I just like to help other people achieve their dreams. That's what I like to do.
Well, then you're achieving. I promise you. I think everybody's an achiever. That's my primary apparently. So I'm trying to figure out my wings and all the other weird stuff.
Yeah, you need the 2 wings and how do you do it? And so fun. I love it.
It's a lot. So
it is a lot.
We'll figure that out. But how's your week been?
You know, it's my baby girl turned 16, sweet
Happy
16, which is always really fun, right? And it's so funny because, you know, when I still remember my 16th birthday, like it was yesterday. I don't know about you. Like we went to Olive Garden. I knew who was there because Olive Garden was fancy for us.
It was a fancy restaurant for us guys.
Yes. It was a fancy restaurant for us. And it was so cute because Omicron and all that, we couldn't really do anything. So I asked her, I'm like, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she was like, I remember you telling me that you went to Olive Garden and we should go to Olive Garden. And I was like, honey, Olive Garden is gross. So we will not be doing that.
I don't care, man. I still love Olive Garden. I don't care what snobs say. Olive Garden is a
so place. Gross. Especially when we have like authentic Italian restaurants. I'm like, I would much rather do authentic Italian restaurants. So we actually didn't end up being able to do anything for her birthday, sadly, because of the snowstorms. And you know how it is. Like the threat of snow in DC ends up canceling everything. So we have been home since then. But I do have to say, she's my best friend, as you all know, my only girl. And, you know, we really, as she's getting older, it's sad, you know, because we're still talking about the older mamas this week. But I love the crazy person she's becoming, and I love watching it unfold. What about you? Like, how was your week? I know you guys went on vacation because I'm jealous because we never get to go anywhere. So why don't you tell us a little bit about vacation?
I didn't go on vacation.
I thought you did.
Where'd I go?
You
Hawaii
tell
was
me.
the last place I went.
You're always going somewhere. Like in the notes.
No.
In the notes that Uzma makes me read, okay, everybody, it says vacation.
Oh, that's right. That was old. Yeah, sorry.
So, see, I read the notes.
Didn't update
Even
that. You do read the
though
notes.
She gets so mad at me. I'm like, I read the notes on the day
it's okay.
of.
Joe will edit that part out. We'll get rid of that part.
Actually don't, because this just shows us how it works. I stress Uzma out with my gazillion emails in my email that literally drive her nuts. It doesn't bother me.
Emails that are unread.
I just don't read them. And 2, I never read the notes till the morning of because I like to fly by the seat of my pants. And thank God Uzma is there to keep me anchored. Otherwise, God knows where I would be going.
Yeah,
but
as long as I edit them appropriately.
Then she's like, I have to edit this stuff. Anyways, how was your week?
The week I talked about.
Yes.
So you can ask me about the soapbox.
Okay. So what is our soapbox for today?
We're just on a roll today, aren't we?
We really are.
So our soapbox today is about an investigation that the Council on American Islamic Relations, and I'm sorry, it feels like we've been talking about them pretty much every week, but because they are bringing to light things that you wouldn't ordinarily read because, you know, mainstream media just doesn't want you to know about it. Basically, they're talking about, and it's not funny, absolutely not. There was an incident last year where a drone strike that was approved by the Pentagon ended up killing 10 civilians in Kabul, Afghanistan. 7 of them were children. And it was reported as this grand victory against ISIS, and it turned out they struck the vehicle and home of a man who was a humanitarian aid worker transporting jugs of water. Yeah, they killed a humanitarian worker by accident. and reported it as a successful ISIS hit. And then, oh, Afghanistan fell. Oh, boo-hoo. We were saving Afghanistan all this time. No, you weren't. This is just one example of many, many, many that the Department of Defense and the Pentagon have sold us as Americans, using our tax dollars, by the way, to kill civilians across the country. And then we boo-hoo crocodile tears and say, oh, because we were there, they were safer. And now that we're leaving, the women have to wear burqas. Shut up. They will happily wear burqas if you will stop killing their goddamn humanitarian workers who are trying to get them water and actual aid, and not killing them with drone strikes. You're telling me that you can kill a man in a wheelchair in an alley in Yemen with a precise missile strike, and you're going to accidentally hit 10 civilians, including 7 children? BS. BS. So everybody that approved at the Pentagon this particular act is being called on by CARE National Deputy to be fired and held accountable for war crimes, because this was one of many, 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 many war crimes. I'm sorry that I sound especially passionate, because I just got off of a phone call with somebody and we were discussing U.S. war crimes in the world. And this was one of many. And they have done this not just in Afghanistan. They have done this in Pakistan. They have done this in Yemen. They have done this all across the world. And then they sit and they cry and say, why does everybody hate America? Well, this is why. All right. So cut it out. Don't use our tax dollars, and don't open up our country to any more acts of retaliation, whether U.S. civilians are abroad or at home. And that's our soapbox for today.
Man, you're just putting it out there.
You hear the fire? You hear the fire?
I mean, first of all, thank you so much for letting us all know, and I definitely appreciate this. But I'd like to know, which friend were you guys talking about random war crimes with? And that is just, is that like a typical Monday for you, Uzma?
Because that's a typical everyday for Uzma Joffrey. Yes, we're talking about U.S. war crimes on the daily. Yeah, so
that's
CIA,
why you don't sleep.
I'm on to you.
Well, that's why she doesn't sleep, everybody, because she is looking up this news for us and letting us know. And thank you so much. We're going to have that in our show notes. But, you know, we are continuing this month's of Adult Muslim Kids series. And trust me, I have learned so much. And we have Aisha Jalali. She is a broadcast journalist out of Houston, Texas, an old friend of, no, not an old friend. What's another?
A friend from the past. We need to stop saying older
I know,
moms.
stop saying
moms
old.
of older kids. We are young.
We are young, and we're
young.
awesome.
And
okay,
kicking.
she is one of Uzma's oldest friends from her childhood. She has affectionately coined her crew the Six Pack. I love it, because that's how many children are under her care. Masha'Allah. Half of them are adults. One is already married, because, I mean, I need to hear about that. And Aisha has all the experience of raising the kids we want to hear about. And I am really excited to have her here, because, girl, I need help right now. Welcome, Aisha, and welcome to Mommyingwhilemuslim.
Assalamualaikum. It's going to feel really weird calling you Aisha like a grown-up, but I'm going to do it, all right? Because we all know what your pet name is. Everybody in H-Town knows what your pet name is, but I'll call you Aisha, because we're going to be grown-ups. But tell us a little bit about your kids, whatever you're comfortable sharing about them, and a little bit about your momming philosophy, because I know I'm going to share with the audience what one piece of advice you told me that changed my life.
Do I have momming philosophy? I don't really know. I'm just hanging on by a string, doing whatever I think is right. I don't know. So, yeah, you're right. I have a six-pack. I love it, because I'm like, I'll never get a six-pack. So
she
I'm
really
like,
has a six-pack. She's lying.
So they are, if you don't mind me telling you their ages, 23, 21. I have to think of, I number them. Oh, literally sometimes I numbering them. Oh yeah, that was number 3. I'm like, oh my God, they have a name.
Awesome.
My oldest is 23, 21, almost 20 next month, inshallah. 18. So it's actually 4 adults. 13 and 11.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. That's crazy. Crazy.
Like I said, I don't really have, I don't know. They don't give you a manual on how to raise kids, much less multiple kids. And what I've realized is, and I know it's the same for you guys, all 6 of them have completely different personalities. Completely differently. And then you kind of go crazy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, so this worked for this person, but then if you say it for this one, it's like, why would you say that to me? Things like that. So anyway, we can get into it as we get into it. But yeah, so
just roll with it. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I first of all, I love the roll with it, but I do have to say, you probably, with the experience that you have, even though all of them are probably uniquely different, you have probably this, at least for me, I have this calmness to know, like, okay, it ultimately ends up working out okay, or the way that it's supposed to. Do you ever get to that point, or have you gotten to that point, or you're still like, oh my God, they're driving me nuts?
No, I think you're right. I think at the end of the day, I always know kind of like Allah always sort of takes care of me somehow. I'm okay. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It might go through tears and some yelling and some whatever, but you're right. Yeah, I think there is something in there in the heart that always leads to okay. We're gonna be okay.
Yes.
It's a little bit crazy, but it's okay. Stella, we're so yeah, you're right.
Well, I do want to share, since I gave a little tickler, and now people are going to be like, what is that piece of advice? I think I had, at the time, I think I was pregnant with my third, and I had two basically toddlers, and I was in Houston for Eid, and you were like, listen, I was like, how do you do this? Like, this is insane. How did you do this with so many kids? MashaAllah. And at that time, I think you had 5. And
Did I?
I think you might have had 5. And you were like, listen, just don't yell. Yelling doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, you used to yell. I was screaming like a banshee at them all the time, like cussing at them, because I had lost my mind. And you were like, don't yell. And literally, and I didn't apply it right away. Okay. I did have 3 when I started implementing it. And it was like night and day. Mm-hmm. Night and day. Like in the way they behaved towards me and the way I felt towards them. I was like, oh my God, Aisha was onto something, man. Like, she knows what she's talking about.
Well, it's funny though because how did I learn that? Is by making that mistake over and over. To be honest, it's interesting because I can write a book on what not to do when it comes to parenting. Certainly, when it comes to homeschool, because we homeschooled half our kids or whatever, and we made every homeschool mistake out there.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I mean, I at some point because I remember I was just yelling and then I was like, I am wasting my vocal cords, my level, and they're not getting anything out of it. So that's got to stop, And sure enough, it did, help, situation for sure.
Well, that was all that was in my wheelhouse. So like the only thing I could.
Well, I mean, that's something, right? Like, and honestly, learning what not to do is also a tool in your toolbox, right? And a lot of people don't realize that it's also a tool in your toolbox. Like, okay, if I don't do this, maybe this will happen. And the fact that we're all like, you're an experienced mom and you're learning as you go along, that really should be enough to tell people, guess what? We're all learning as we're going along. We're trying to keep these kids alive as best as we can. And if they turn out into decent human beings, consider that a success. Like just call it a day and consider it as a success. And, and having a 6-pack, first of all, and with that huge age difference, right? Mm-hmm. Like what are some of the things that you learned and you're willing to share with your older set that you can apply or have been applying in addition to not yelling with your younger set?
Interesting. Okay. So first of all, like my kids totally get this from their mom. I am an oversharer, so I kind of have to be careful. But oh my God, sometimes like kids say something that they really shouldn't have. Like no one needed to know that particular
piece of whatever
information, but you want to go ahead and say it. And I'm like, oh my God, there's just overshares. And my husband's like, yeah, what do you think they get it from? Like, I'll say when it's comfortable. I think. So I found myself, because they're so different. My second one is the helper, the second mom, and literally the person who she sees that I'm tired, she makes me jai. Aww. She does laundry single-handedly. I have other kids, and not a goddamn one of them know how to freaking do the laundry, except for her. Started working or when she started training, because all of them are athletes and whatever, like if she's too busy, okay, then the laundry process. So point being, I found myself comparing them, and I like, why can't you just be more like Fana? Why can't you be like, like Why is it that she actually sees the dishes and decides to do it instead of me having to tell you to do it, you know? But I realized that that wasn't working, you know, it's making them feel worse. And I mean, honestly, it's just so natural.
Yeah.
It just natural to just be like, oh my God, I don't need to only just depend on her to do, you know. Um, but I knew, but it certainly backfired. Like it didn't help comparing them. So now, like with my younger ones, my son is actually have 5 daughters, and then only the boy cooks. Okay,
Oh.
Mashallah.
like he loves it, he enjoys it. Um, and so I was like, oh my gosh. So my youngest, I'm like, Sakina, why don't you ever cook like, you know? So I was like, oh,
Oh,
nope,
don't
Stop
do
stop.
that.
that.
Yeah.
So for sure, that's one of the things.
I love
Like,
that.
don't compare as much as it's sort of so easy to do. It almost comes out naturally. Like, oh, seriously, dude? Like, you know. And then, you know, then they actually have mentioned it. You know, they're like, I am not Anna. You can't compare me to, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. You know,
I just like what
but
she does. Can you just do that?
yeah,
Just do
exactly.
that one thing.
Like her, you know what I like. And, you know, and to be honest, and in that, I don't know what happens, but you sort of let things go more with the person who helps you more, you
Yeah.
know? You
They get a
make the
pass.
same, and then you're kind of like, we have, I don't know what the word is. Not even more sympathy, but she cares more, it seems, cares as far as household and whatever, that you're just like, well, she does do so much, so she can get away with a little more, you know? And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, or it's probably wrong, but at the same time, I don't know, that sort of naturally happens in your heart and you don't really want it to, but then you see it happening and I don't know.
Well, you can love, I always say, I love all of you the same, but sometimes I like one of you more than the other.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
just happens, right? Because like you said, right? If somebody is coming and it sees you and it's like, "Hey, can I help you out?" versus being more of a pain, you're going to naturally be like more warm and more
Yeah.
fluid with that person. So that's totally, I mean, that's normal.
That's, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that
I've
you said,
actually,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was saying I've actually said those words. Listen, I love you guys all, but I kind of just like her a little bit.
Yeah.
Right now.
Just right
It's
now.
a temporal thing. Yeah. So I think it's important for people to understand, you know, as a mom of multiples, like you had a pretty good example growing up too. So maybe telling folks a little bit about your family background, whatever you're comfortable with, and how, you know, parenting these these different personalities in one household, where you learned that from, some of the biggest takeaways that you got from that source, and, you know, how you incorporated a little bit of yourself and your individual experience in that mommyhood.
So that's a great question. So yeah, so we come from a family of 5 siblings, and my parents always, I mean, they did. I'm till this day. I ask my mom and dad. I'm like, what did y'all do to make us so close? Like you know, we mentioned. I was on a sibling trip. Came back last week, and some people looked at us like, y'all don't take trips together as siblings, you know. And I think, yeah. So I always look back. So my parents did something that allowed us to just sort of stay close. They never, honestly, I never remember them. Well, I take that back. My older brother was a golden child. Okay, but yeah, he still is. My ex trainer is still the golden child. But there was no, you know, there was no jealousy in that at all.
Wow.
And I think because I believe it's because my parents really instilled confidence in all of us individually, and they forced us to go out, and they forced us growing up to volunteer, and they forced us to do things that we didn't really want to do, but we just had to, like, go to dawats, so parties, like with my parents, and we were like, we're gonna be bored to death, but they forced us, so they, like, made us stay together. You know how now, like, the kids are like, well, I just don't feel like going,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, well, too bad, you're going, you know, kind of thing. And I just remember growing up, oh my gosh, road trips are key.
Hated
I mean,
them.
I love them. And why? Because we were in a 1984 hoopty, squished together, 5 kids in the front, no seatbelts, of
Of
course.
course.
But I mean, I'm telling you, and I tell my husband this, like, till this day because he hates road trips and I love him. But I'm like, that is the reason we stay close, you know. Well, you know, but yeah, but like taking like I think from like my parents sort of first of all they really instilled this confidence in us. If you notice, all of our personality, me and my siblings, these are, I mean, we're kind of big mouths, right? You know what I'm saying? We're
They're
kind
all
of loud.
overshares.
But I do think that because they really did do some like instill some confidence. So I wanted to do the same, like for the kids. So I always forced them to come with me to volunteer. I don't care what you're doing since they were kids, you know, and force them to yeah, you know, so my dad always had family meetings. Okay, we would have like walnuts and almonds, and we'd crack them, and he'd be like family meeting. You know, we would have those randomly every month, and we'd have game night and I did that too. You know, they're like, oh my god, mama, you know, and then actually even more recently with their phones, I'm like, no, put your phone away. Nope, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. You know, we're gonna talk. So yeah, I guess I did take a lot of things from from them.
Yeah, that's
So
absolutely. I need to get those on the calendar. Those family meetings haven't been working for us because I'm not putting them on the calendar.
I know, and it's even harder when they're adults
Yeah.
and they all have jobs
Yep.
and to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you're, dang, you're working again. You know, because we're like, come
We
on.
got walnuts to crack together.
Well, I'm
Exactly.
I'm guessing that we've talked about mom wars and like mom petitions and all anything we can put a mom on it that's negative, but this is like for real. How did you deal? What's
Can you close the door?
yeah, no, trust me. Mine keep looking at me at the door. How did you deal with that? One, and are you still dealing with that as the kids are getting older?
So to be honest, I don't think I've ever really dealt with it. Per se, like I didn't really dealt with mom petitions and things like that. What I did deal with is I'm just gonna say it, whatever, is mother-in-law, you know, telling me how to parent. Okay, so and that's okay, you know, because I don't know how I'm gonna be with my future grandkids or I mean son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws or whatever. But as far as parenting, yeah. So I didn't. You know, it's funny because even if someone did, let's say, criticize or wasn't sure, like all our kids are athletes, and I mean, they were beat up, bruised coming in because they did taekwondo, one did gymnastics and soccer, and taekwondo it's rough, you know. And they would come in, how can you let your kids, you know, how can you let your kids get beat up like this, coming home with bruises and whatever? And I'm like, listen, man, it's making them tough, okay? It's making you know they didn't die you know and I'm joking but seriously like they're I mean it honestly made them a lot tougher and so I just kind of ignore it you know and then just be respectful and just kind of ignore it and be like you know okay well I'm just gonna do my thing you know and the interesting about that question is like I think with our family is we weren't a typical brown house we're not a typical brown household you know we like I said our we knew we forced our kids to be athletes and in fact there are some times and I'm sure people won't agree with this but there were some times where they just wanted to quit but we knew that they had it in them and we've had I would know several people family even that's tried something and then because they had a rough day or because it was just too hard they quit and that's fine for you but that wasn't gonna fly in our house you know and so we just yeah we never let them quit and despite what others said out there, we were like, well, you know what? We're gonna just do our thing, you know.
I love that.
And I like,
Yeah, and
I
those
don't know if
girls
that's
can kick ass. I'll tell you that. That's awesome. Um, so you've talked about I don't know what kind of a mother-in-law I'll be, but you sort of are a mother-in-law. So tell us what that's like.
oh my god, listen. Okay, they're like, oh my god, your sauce
Yeah.
is in-law, and I'm like, I know mother-in-law, homies. Okay, like I'm like, it ages me like crazy. I was literally in denial because I was like, hell no, I know mother-in-law. Yeah, man, you know, it's oh my god, where do I even begin? So it's very interesting to have. So she still lives at home. My just so y'all know, like she's 23 now. At 22. I think 21, almost 22, we got her nikah done, right? And to be honest, I wasn't on board with it. I wasn't, because I just felt like she's too young. So my husband, very traditional, sort of strict, and he did it for the sake of Islam, and he didn't want the kids to,
Halalifying the relationship. Yeah.
you know, yeah, exactly. He was like, "Oh, they're gonna mess up, blah blah blah," and I'm like, they're good kids, and he was just like, before, look, they love each other, and we should get their nikah done. But my hesitation was, I know my daughter, and I don't think either of them are mature enough, even though they're living at home, and they weren't gonna, because we wanted her. The reason is because we wanted her to finish school, which alhamdulillah she did in May. She graduated, and he graduates this May, I believe, inshallah. But I was hesitant because I felt like she wasn't emotionally ready. Like, it's a whole husband. Like, it's a nikah, but it's freaking marriage, And it's funny because I just don't think I was ready. I wasn't letting go because, meaning I still had her at home, but I wasn't ready to let her go. Like, my heart was, I had a really hard time. Like, oh my God, she's gonna be somebody's wife, but that's my baby. Let go, I think. So that was my hesitation. Especially because, I mean, sweet. They're all like, "Well, Mama, you're my best friend. Well, you're my best friend. You're my. And I'm like, am I still gonna be her best friend? Because
now it's gonna be him.
you know. But then now I have another kid, almost. Like, I have this son-in-law who's great, mashallah, and just that we have like a whole new person in our lives. That my son Musa doesn't have any brothers, and so that was great, right? Like, we're a brother, and so it's oh man, it's rough, it's weird, it's so many emotions. There's just so many. Often.
I wonder what's going to happen when she actually leaves, when she moves out with him. What are you going to do then?
I don't.
Why are you always trying to be a Debbie Downer? Don't like, push it.
Like, what's going to happen? Because
let
I
her
feel
enjoy.
I'm like, I feel that pain of, all the responsibilities that come with partnering up with somebody. It's like, you don't want your kid to be, I don't want my kids to have that responsibility. I got mad once I got married. I was like, why the hell did y'all want us to do this so bad?
Yeah.
Like, this is hard.
It's hard, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, marriage is hard, and so it's like, are you ready to deal with marital issues and etc. And like, so of course, we out in my house, obviously, and everyone's house, we try to pray 5 times. We pray 5 times a day, and we're we try to do these halaqas after Maghrib and stuff like that. And I'm like, is she gonna do that? And is he, yes, he prays, but I'm just saying, like, are they gonna continue being practicing, like, inshallah? He's not a bad influence. I mean, I don't think he is, but inshallah he's a great influence. But you know what I'm saying? Like, all these concerns and worries that sort of come along with it. So, yeah,
absolutely.
No, I personally think that you're going to have these worries regardless. Being a mom doesn't ever end, right? Even with your adult children. And that's kind of what we're hearing right now, is it never ends, where we're constantly, but perhaps being a mom in the background, there's a little bit of there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, because the truth of the matter is, if you've provided the foundation for them, even if we've heard some stories from some of these moms, the kids have strayed away, but then they came back, and then if you provide the strong foundation, the kids will always come back. And even if they don't follow your family traditions 100%, they're going to take a little bit of what they have and maybe even add their own spin, which could be this amazing thing for the next generation. And you could say, I started that. So, like, how fun is that going to be?
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
So don't be sad. Be excited about the next chapter in your life, girl.
Yeah. It's really hard, I can imagine, that our lives don't look like the lives that our parents led, right? And our immigrant parents, it's very different.
I know.
Yeah. So they're probably like, you are too weird of a brown girl. Like, don't live that. Like, live our experience. It's like, your experience was different than your parents too. Because your parents raised their kids back home. So of course, every generation is going to look different. Somebody posted a quote today by Plato. don't raise your children as you were raised, because every generation has its own trials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like, Plato
Very
said that?
true.
Because that sounds like a hadith, man.
Yeah.
I- and not to like this but we moms, we like I didn't spoil my kids, okay? We definitely didn't spoil. We didn't believe in allowances and things like that. You know that. No, we don't have that in brown houses and et cetera, et cetera. But they're entitled, okay? And we're not just, we're trying, I'm trying to grasp my head around, like, my husband and I talk about it. We're like, man, we raised some entitled ass kids, man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but we're like, I think it's just the generation. I said it's just a generation. Like I said, I definitely didn't spoil them. Or maybe we did. I don't know. However, like when it was time for them, they're driving to U of H. They all go to U of H. The ones in college, and well, actually, two of them. Sorry. Noor, my third, is at Wharton getting ready to transfer. But anyway, so they needed a car. Point is, and I paid for my car.
Yeah.
Okay. Paid payments for a car, but we bought them cars. You
Uh-huh.
know? Well, we're a believer of buying old cars,
Uh-huh.
paying cash for them, and so that's what we did. And yeah, granted, they're not like new or fancy, but still. But I'm like, man, it's so different. But they needed it, and like it interesting. I'll just tell you a quick story, real quick. That's okay.
Yes.
My oldest at her job, okay, and I hope I'm not. Well, anyway, so at her job, they asked her to work at urgent care center, right? Like call center. And it's like last year, 2 years ago, whenever it was. And at her job, they asked, did something happen with the electricity? And it couldn't get fixed till the next day. So they asked them to come in on a Saturday. They just asked them to come in on a Saturday for whatever reason. And she and my son-in-law tripped out. Okay. So what's it? Out talking. How dare they? How dare they ask us to come in on a Saturday? Blah blah. And I'm thinking, and I'm honestly like
Confused.
baffled. What is this right now? Wait. Do you know life? Like, I just. But I think this is the way this. Maybe it's not, but I think this is the way the generation thinks. How dare they ask us to come in on a? And I'm like, wait, hold on. That's your employer. You didn't. Your electricity went out, or whatever the case was. Something wrong with the water line, whatever it was, pipes. So they were like, make up to. Well, they can't just throw that out. What if we had plans? Blah blah blah.
You cancel your plans.
Then you would change your plans, kids.
Okay. What plans can you have as a 22-year-old? Whatever. You know what I'm
Oh, come
saying?
on. We were 22, Aisha. We had plans.
I didn't have
Saturday.
plans,
Come
okay?
on. Yeah, Zeba did it. She probably had a prenatal appointment.
I probably did. That's my problem.
I mean, I was honest. Did I raise this? Like this? And so I had to really sit down and talk to him and be like, hold up.
Yeah.
At least I didn't talk to him. I just talked to my daughter. And I was like, listen, hold on. I need you to understand something. This is life.
Yeah.
This is workplace reality. This is not, no one's taking advantage of you. Y'all aren't entitled to where you can just pick and whatever schedule you want. But I just was like, whoa, okay. Did I just do everything wrong as a parent?
Yeah.
What? So, fun, interesting though, because a couple of the other kids were like, that's normal. Like fine, just go to work kind of thing. So I'm like, okay. So I just, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to teach them, right? So one of the things we say, we're like, in this house, we love you. We adore you. But you walk outside of that house, nobody likes you. Okay? And we just say that. Nobody, because you're not, you're just like, it's exactly like that. Nobody owes you anything. You're not entitled to anything. You don't have, you don't get to, make whatever decisions. In this house, it's very different, but it is a very hard thing to actually teach it, because there is this it's a very new thing, because, my kids can take mental health days at school.
What?
Okay? If they don't
How
feel
many
like
days do they
doing,
get?
they get a couple, as many as they need. Granted, we're in COVID time, so it's a little bit different. So the other day, literally, I heard my son say, oh, I'm just going to tell, he just didn't want to do the work. Okay.
Yeah.
But he said, I'm going to tell my teacher I need a mental health day. And I said, and
Wow.
I heard him.
Ratted your son out.
And
on
I
the
just said,
podcast. What if his teacher listens?
Well, I'm sure. And no, but he ended up doing it, right? Because I said, you're not, first of all, there are people that legitimately need those mental health days when you might need the mental health days at some point. So why are you going to waste it because you're lazy?
That sound like it's literally deja vu. Okay. Sick because I don't. And I'm like, you're fine. You're just staying up watching Netflix till 3 a.m. when you
Exactly.
know. When you really have a day, when you're actually
Yes.
sick, how about you better not call in? And it's funny because even though we try to let go,
It's
like,
hard to let go.
oh, I'm texting. Did you make it to work on time? Did you get it? Like, I'm literally like, I mean, I know I don't need to be, but I kind of do because I'm like, oh my God. Like,
So you're trying to tell us it's never over? I'm sitting here thinking I'm counting down the day for my oldest
he's
to go
18,
to
he's
college.
fine to coop.
And I was like, yeah, because he keeps trying to threaten a gap year. And I'm like, hell no, you're not getting a gap year. I need you out of the house as soon as possible. But you're trying to tell you the worry doesn't end. We're always going to keep doing it. Mothering doesn't stop. For God's sakes, what are we going to do now?
And I mean, it depends. So
now
here's
I'm
the
sad
thing.
and depressed, Uzma.
Because
It wasn't my soapbox that did it either.
Darn.
I have the type. It's a blessing. It's a blessing, but it's also it's a blessing. But I'm tired. I have the relationship I have, especially with my older daughters, is 2 a.m. Mama, can I talk to you for a minute? Okay, I'm just ready to go to sleep, but sure. So I mean, that's the thing. So the blessing in that. So we're joking and saying it never ends, and it doesn't. But the blessing in
that they're
in it
still
is,
coming to you.
yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure, and sometimes I really just say it's only through Allah's mercy. I really feel in my heart it's just through Allah's mercy that He allowed me to be so close to my daughters, like to the point where they pretty much almost I don't know. I mean, maybe not everything, but I mean, what I think, right, is they tell me everything, and to where don't tell your dad, don't tell dad about, don't tell Abu about, and I'm like, okay. So like I said, so I appreciate that. In fact, I think my sisters, a couple of my sisters are I have a twin and my younger sister that y'all know, but they're like, God, your kids tell you everything. My kids don't tell me anything, and so I have to look at that and be like, okay, thank you, Allah. Like I love that. As much of a headache as it is, and sometimes, I mean, listen, we're Muslim, and our generation is like not prude, but we're
conservative.
Conservative.
We are.
So, like,
We're about to start our sex series, okay? And I'm still a prude at 42, okay?
Getting like, well, sex, and they're like, Mama, seriously? And I'm like, okay, fine, and to that point, I wasn't that parent that knows their passwords. I don't know their password, but when I allowed them to get Instagram, which I think was probably, I don't remember how old they were. So one day I'm like, let me see your Instagram account. I think they were 14, maybe, and I'm looking and they're liking. That's when you see, they doesn't do it anymore, but Instagram used to tell you on one side, like what people like, what they like. And they were liking dirty jokes and these things and like just weird things. And I'm like, and they weren't bad, like not dirty, but dirty enough for me. Like, I'm like, hold on, do you even know what this means?
In my day.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And that was like a hard, almost transition for me. Like, okay, oh my God. So they're old enough now. Okay. So I think like alhamdulillah, I've always, so I asked them about it and I was like, they're like, Mama, whatever. So the thing is, I didn't scold them. I didn't like trip out. I think some immigrant parents especially don't really understand. And so they'll just be like, what the hell is this and whatever. So I really tried to be like, okay, look, because I need you to still talk to me and tell me. And so I never really, whatever. But it just takes you back a little bit. Like, my God, okay. And so, yeah, we got to a point where one of my kids I'm so close to, she's kind of teaching me something.
Oh, my gosh.
So, and I'm like, oh,
Is
my
that
God.
what that means? Oh, yeah.
Certain things that I'm like, oh, dang, that's so bad. So now we kind of send each other dirty jokes.
Oh, my God.
I tell the entire world all the dirty jokes I know, and this is probably 95% true. All the dirty jokes I know my mom taught me.
What?
Nuh-uh. Oh my god.
Mommy Joffrey got a dirty mouth.
Oh my.
And I know she listens to the podcast. Sorry, Yummy. The world knows.
The world knows now, Auntie Annie. The world knows.
It had to come from somewhere,
now.
okay?
That's a real cool auntie. So I hope she's listening.
So on that note, you mentioned something really important. I think it's this. If we hadn't been American Muslims, we would have tripped out, right?
Yeah.
So immigrant parents would have tripped out because they don't know any better. But on the other side of that, on the things that they don't know about, that can be dangerous. So like just literally last night, driving home, had the radio on, and there's a song about, something about a cucumber. And I was turn that off right now. Omar's like, really quickly, he like turns it off because he hears it too, right? And like my two older ones start laughing in the back. The two younger ones have no idea what's going on. And so the little guy's like asking, whoa, what? And so number two is translating for him what the cucumber's about. I'm like, can you just stop? Like, you don't need to teach him that right now. That is okay.
Yeah.
And like, he's like laughing. They're rolling on the floor. But I know had it been switched and I was in the back seat, my parents were in the front seat, they wouldn't have even known to change that cucumber.
Yeah. Well, I'm that parent. Did you know? Like, I just learned about that stupid song, "Watermelon Juice," watermelon sugar.
Watermelon sugar.
I didn't know, and Zara was like, "Mom, you know what this song's about?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So I'm that person.
I actually don't know.
Oh. we'll talk about it offline. That might make it into our show notes for next week, but. Oh, I'll talk to you about it offline. No, but it's a beautiful journey that you get to do that. And I mean, I at least feel blessed. It sounds like you have a really good relationship with your daughters. I feel like at least I have one because it's the same thing. I feel like my sons, I'm close to them in a very different way. Like our relationship has definitely like, it's a weird thing because it went from he was like, they were my mama's boys and now he thinks he has to help take care of me. And I'm like, you still are like a baby and you're perfectly fine. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a weird transition. Whereas my daughter, like today, I'm literally wearing this over it because I was walking out of the house and my daughter was like, yeah, so your shirt is see-through and it's not a cute look. And she just called it out and I was like, okay, fine. Thank you for making me feel so bad about myself. But I love that, and it sounds like you're learning and you're growing and I absolutely love that. So the question I had for you right now is like, as your daughters are getting married and they're changing, how do we, I don't know how to say this, like, how do we parent them when they're now individually adults, and that is, I think the harder, like you said, it's a little bit harder to let go. How do we start that letting go evolution as they're becoming their own autonomous individuals?
Oh my god! Yeah, that's a hard question. So, so I think what has happened, the evolution of our mom daughter has now become friend, and more than anything, I feel okay. So I'm still parenting as far as hey, can you guys please do the dishes? I mean, can you just help in the house? Or dad's coming from out of town, like he was out of town, let's clean the house, etc. Things like that. But as far as the more bigger issues out there and the more bigger parenting sort of things out there, I almost feel like I wait for them to come to me, and some don't. And so you let go, but when I see something that's a little bit peculiar, or if I see that they're off, or they're just kind of snappy and stuff, like, something ain't right, something's wrong, something happened. And then I'm like, did you get bullied?
Oh, I like how your mind goes there, poor thing.
Because you got two other sisters that can karate chop them.
Or I'm like, okay, what happened? Or did some boy break your heart? Kind of thing. So if I do notice those things, otherwise I sort of let them go and they do their thing. And if I see something, I say something, or I wait for them to come to me. Because I realized that I did start sort of asking too much and sort of harping on them. And they're like, seriously, mama? Like, you have other little kids. You need to told me that. by the way. Okay, but I mean, and I say this and I live by it. I would way rather deal with toddlers and potty trainings.
Yes.
I had four little girls under 5 years old, and it was, I don't remember anything. They're like, when did I take my first step? Shit. I'm making up stuff. When did you leave?
What are my first words? Hell if I know.
I literally make up everything. What was my first word? Oh, it was Nana. Way rather deal with that than being older.
Oh, no.
Because emotional headache that you love and appreciate, but it's taxing on you.
Yes.
You know? And I think when I was reading one of the notes is how do you deal with it, you know, like for yourself, because, you know, for years it was all kids, kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I never. And interestingly, when I did start focusing on myself, oh, now mama's changing. What's going on with mom? You know, and I'm like, no, you. And then I had to actually explain to them, like, guys, listen, everybody has a journey. And right now, like, you know, if I need to be good for you, I need to be good for, like, I have to help myself, or else I can't help you because you guys are emotionally taxing, man. And I appreciate it, mashallah, I really do. And I know you need me. Like when I was in Argentina for 2 weeks, a little under 2 weeks, first weekend, Mama, you need to come home. Mama, Abu's driving us crazy. Mama, please, I'll be back, inshallah. Like, you know, it's okay. But, and so one of the ways, and you probably know this, Uzma, is, man, I work out and I love it. Mm-hmm. And when I started, to be honest, and actually my husband hired me a trainer, and I'm like 6 years ago, I'm like, what you trying to say? But anyway, I appreciate it. And this whole time, I stopped going to Marshalls and Home Goods. I stopped buying shoes because I was a shoe freak, because that investment is the greatest investment I've ever made. But having said that, it is like my sanctuary. Mm-hmm. Working out is when I go there, I feel better, and then I yell way less. Mm-hmm. Even the kids know, Mama, you don't even yell at us anymore. You know,
we kind of miss it.
I'm just calmer, you know, and so some people deal with different ways. I'm not the person that gets facials. I wish I was, or massages. I need to be that person.
I'm that person.
She's that person.
Yeah.
Right? And that person. I'm about to be that person.
Girl!
Actually. But yeah, like I said, that's what I did. And then, and honestly, and I'll be very honest, every talk, and this is just a little side thing that I do, every time I have a good talk with the girls, and they leave and we just whatever, or if they're honest with me, I do sujood. Oh, I just do. And that's one thing my husband and I had started doing years ago, and I just drop down and just thank Allah. And then I start making dua, like, oh my God, who are they going to marry, you know, and whatever, and are they going to be okay and whatever. But that is one thing that I just, in my heart, I feel like it has helped. Like I don't know, I had talked to Allah a lot in my heart. Let's probably like, really?
Yeah,
you know?
Again, Aisha?
But I do. But it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
You know? It makes me feel better. So that's just, I know it's kind of dorky, but that's just one thing.
I love it. So what I'm hearing from you is embrace the chaos, right? Yeah. You know, embrace the chaos. Pray, give thanks to God every single time that they come to you for things, and recognize that we're learning as we're going along. And quite frankly, self-care is really something all moms, whether you have kids under five, or in your teens, or over 25, self-care is very important.
I didn't realize the importance of self-care till I was like, I'm 47 right now, so probably like 42, and I wish I'd known at least prior.
Wow.
At least.
We have this concept of it's a selfish thing, not recognizing that it's actually the most selfless thing you can do for your family.
Yeah.
Taking care of it.
Oh, and I'm living proof of that, for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, I felt like I was just going crazy, but then finally when I honestly focused on myself, even just took a walk outside, you know? Like, and you know what's interesting? Like, we always, of course, when you have a big family, you grew up with a big family, we have a huge, I mean, my parents are down the street, my in-laws are down the street, my sisters are out, everyone's close. But I like being alone now.
Yeah.
I freaking love my alone time. if I just want to drive, I just want to take a drive to the like. I haven't done it yet, but I think I've done it. Yeah. Oh, I had a date. I didn't ask. I told him. I told my husband. I said I need a date. And you know what I did? Drove to the Woodlands. I got a massage, which was pretty crappy, but it's okay. Then I went all by myself, and I just thought about the kids and what I need to get them. But anyway, I went to IHOP alone, and it was the
Love
ever.
that.
Okay. What? And it was great.
Yeah.
And I've never done that. And I did that like a month ago.
What?
That's the first time yeah. Can you believe that? And I just,
Well, Jalalis are extroverts, so it's like weird to be alone. They're like social animals.
That's so funny because everyone thinks I'm an extrovert, but I love being alone.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
wake up at 4:30 every morning so I
alone.
can be by myself. Because that's the
Otherwise
only
the
time
mess
I
starts,
get.
yeah.
Then it all starts. But we've loved all of these. Like we're gonna have so many little like presents to be able to hand to people, and I definitely appreciate it. Something that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, my kid is not getting married in college because I've already told him I don't think that's gonna happen. Well, I feel like for boys it's a little bit just that I'm trying to be sexist, but I tell him you have to be willing to put somebody else's needs before yours. And I already know he is not there yet. So Mama will be taking control of that for a little bit longer. But Aisha, we're going to do rapid fire right now. And I'm so excited because you are an oversharer. So I'm very much excited to hear what's gonna come up.
First thing off the top of your head.
It has to be the first thing off the top of your head. And at this point, don't worry what your kids think. Hopefully they'll embrace it. But the first thing I always ask everybody, right, is what book are you currently reading or something you've recently read that you would recommend?
It's taking me 7 years to read it for some reason.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Is it that bad?
You know what it is? I start it and I love it, and then I just stop. And then I'm like, God, I gotta start over because I just want to feel it again.
Oh,
So then
I love that.
rip and I don't read it because I want to on the plane. Anyway.
So that's okay because there's some books that you do read over and over again and you reread, and that's totally fine. And maybe this is that book for you on your journey. So like if you could change your name, and it sounds like you do have a little bit of a nickname, to anything in the world that you'd want it to be, what would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. What a question.
Didn't you ever watch Seinfeld? Come on.
Yeah, I know, right?
Everybody
It's funny
has an
because-
Art Vandelay.
Mm-hmm.
I know. We're always like, I'm Art Vandelay. That's what I am. You know what? I can't think of anything, but for some reason, off the top of my head, so stupid. Off the top of my head, you know what I'm thinking? Sasha.
Sasha!
Like Sasha Fierce. Oh, I love it. I love that. Well, some
Sasha
people
Jalali.
have that, right? Like it's like this, it's your alter ego to be able to have that confidence. You're naming something. So I love that about you. And we're going to start calling you Sasha. If you could spend a day in somebody else's shoes, what would it be? Who would it be?
Who would it be? A day in someone else's shoes? I would. It's definitely going to be sports related for me. I would like to be like one of the trainers for the NFL.
Ooh.
That's what,
Yeah.
spend time with the athletes. I want to help the athletes. I want to watch like them perform and do their thing and train
Run
them
their
and
metrics. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
I would
That's
be
what
their
I would
trainer, but for like a whole nother reason.
I know.
So, yeah.
That's a whole different podcast.
Data would have nothing to do with that.
That's
I
a
could
whole-
make it data friendly.
That is so. This is the last question. What was the last thing that you did that made you feel extreme happiness?
Extreme happiness? Huh. I mean, well, so I did just get back from vacation, so the last thing that I did probably is going to see these glaciers at the bottom of the South.
I love that.
And it was phenomenal, and it's like a wonder of the world. And in Argentina, it's Glacier Perito Moreno, and it's fascinating. Like it's incredible. And I couldn't be more happier for so many reasons, that I was blessed enough to leave the kids in good hands, alhamdulillah, with my husband, and come, that I was able to afford to come, that my brother actually helped me plan the whole trip, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's so many reasons. And then just to witness Allah's beauty, like,
Miracle.
I just, and, circle of life, I was a broadcast journalism major, but a geography minor, because I had a professor that was so amazing. And literally almost 25 years ago, whatever, we learned about this glacier, and I was like fascinated by it. And I was like, I never thought I would ever see it in person.
That's great.
And so I was like, I was fascinated by it. I studied it, and my one whole course was just South America, right? And so it was. And when I'm there and I'm looking at it, and I'm just kind of doing zikr, to be honest, because it's just too overwhelming, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm looking at this thing that I saw in a textbook years ago. Probably not the happiest most recent.
I love that.
I
just went on that journey.
You look so
I
happy.
know. I was like, I went on that journey with you. I went on that journey. I feel it. I love it.
I'm like trying to feel excitement over a glacier. I'm just getting it off of your face. I'm getting excitement off your face.
It's massive till the eyes can see, okay? And literally, it's so big, and rarely happens. We're on a boat, I kid you not, and it sounds like, what is it? Thunder sounds, okay? A huge piece fell down, and I'm so silly, because I was snapping at that moment, but on my mug, I was like, blah, blah, blah. Nobody wants to see that, but I happen to see in my Snapchat the guy behind me go like this, and then I hurried up and took it back, so I caught the very end of it, and and they said it rarely happens. But then it kind of got scary, because then we're on the boat and we're like seeing these waves, like a tsunami. Immediately my first reaction was, okay, where's the lifeboats? And I'm like,
am I gonna make it back home?
But it was just, the whole experience was just
SubhanAllah.
I love that.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all of those experiences from Argentina and from your last 23 years of parenting. I got to tell you, there's so much that I incorporate from your parenting journey just by hearing about it in my own family. Like, my kids know all the prophets just because of the prophet song that you're first heard every single night as a lullaby. Like, the whole just not yelling thing, like I said, that was life-changing. I just absolutely adore you from afar, and I idolize you. And I'm just so glad, so glad that you came here to share your nuggets about how to raise your 6 crew into adulthood. And I know you're doing some hands-off and you're doing some hands-on, but that's motherhood, right?
Yeah.
For the perpetuity of our careers as moms.
I just write back real quick. First of all, you're my hero. Your daughter, I will never forget this. When she was born, she had a heart condition. And we were in Texas Children's Hospital, me and her, for 6 weeks. And I will never forget. Rosemary made homemade cookies. This is she made homemade cookies. I can still taste them.
Oh my God.
They were in a beautiful tin, and came to visit me. And when you, friends like that, man, they stay in your heart. Like, I can't say enough about that. Like, have that, right, being in that experience and I will never forget the feeling of when she came to see me. And was it you and your sister? Were you alone?
I think Mona and I came.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And it's almost 20 now.
Yeah.
And
masha'Allah. Every time I look at that girl, I'm like, SubhanAllah, you're such a miracle baby.
I
know you don't
that.
remember me, but I remember you when you were a miracle baby.
Oh, she knows. I talk about it all the time.
Oh,
I love that. And speaking of cookies, because of COVID, she sent us some doctor cookies, and it came in the mail today. And I came home from work, and they were all gone. So they apparently did their thing.
They didn't even save you one?
No!
Apparently they were covered.
So thank you so much for being the cookie doctor. We definitely appreciate
Take 2 and call me in the morning. Yeah.
Take 2 and call you in the morning, okay? I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day.